And welcome to Catholics Coast to Coast, where we just love to hang out all summer long as we dive into the podcast conversations happening at Podcast Central. Easy to board along. All you have to do is go to EWTN.com/podcast and then either subscribe wherever you like to stream so you don't miss future episodes, or hang out all summer long and then share it with your friends so that they can deepen their walk with God. I am Ace McKay, along for the ride as we dive in this weekend, the Catholic Man Show, helping us to understand that a gratitude attitude is a virtue. It's also a sub-virtue of justice because it renders to another what's due first to God, who gave us everything. So when you think about Eucharistic meaning thanksgiving, also a man of gratitude is also a Eucharistic man. So we want to find out how we can repay God in creating those moments with him and on his behalf. So let's check in with the Catholic Man Show on this week's Catholics Coast to Coast.
New Niles in this world.
In the house. I mean, not literally.
Not in this house. But new Niles in this world. Super excited. Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you.
You did wonderful.
Thank you.
I think that people don't think about how stressful it is for the dad.
You know what? Gosh, I'm so glad you brought this up.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's all about, in birth, we just get totally overlooked at how hard our job is.
Yeah.
You know.
The pressure.
Yeah.
The anxiety. Just having to do all the things.
Yeah, so many of those things.
Yeah.
You know, like, so many things. None of them really come to mind right now.
It's like whenever, you know, the wife has the baby and they forget the pain.
Yeah.
Going through the baby, and so you know, it's kind of a grace that the Lord, you know, gives the woman of like, hey, I'm gonna help you kind of forget about all this pain, so that way you can make sure to have more babies.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
There's some realm of similarity in one way or another, potentially.
What do you? So tell us about the baby.
Baby boy. So now we are. We went girl, 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 boy, girl, boy, boy. So 3 boys, 4 girls. Joshua Benedict Rex.
Yes.
Is now in the world.
I love that name, dude.
Thank you. I also do. I mean, that's why we picked it. But all of our boys sort of have a kingship vibe to them.
Yes.
So there's David.
Natural.
David Jr., right? King David. Then we have Joseph, who is not exactly a king, but, you know, the Joseph
He
figures.
was the father of the King of Kings.
That's right. And also the Old Testament Joseph was, you know, like very much a ruling. He sat in a ruling chair of authority where the Pharaoh had basically given him all of his own power.
Yeah.
So he was very much a kingship, and that was, you know, part of his prophecy that he would, you know, rule over his brothers. And now we have Joshua Benedict Rex. So he's doing awesome. Lady Pamela is doing great. We got to the birth center. The midwife was like, "Oh, you're at a 10. Do you want me to break your water?" And Pamela's like, "Yeah." And she did. And then Joshua was born 11 minutes later.
Yeah, I got a text message from you. And it's like, we're going in. I'm like, all right, good. Because I kept asking you, like, almost every day, hey, where are we at? Where are we at? Because, you know, I wanted to make sure to be praying. And so you finally sent me a text message like, okay, we're going in. I'm like, all right, good. And we were, I was at the hospital. And so I said, like, all right, we're going to stop and pray. And we stopped and prayed. And I was like, thank goodness I did, because
you could have missed it.
I could have missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
it was great. He's doing wonderful. He's just a content little guy.
very stereotypical Niles baby.
He is. He's a typical Niles content baby.
We were talking about this after Joshua was born, but it's just so interesting how when you have babies, especially like your babies and you know, the Minahan babies are very similar. Like they all cookie cutter babies. They all look the same. Mm-hmm. And then it's so amazing to see them grow and see the difference that they become from newborn, because baby Joshua looks exactly like baby Davy,
all the other
and
Niles
Elizabeth,
babies,
and Bernadette, and like all of your kids. It's like, yep, that is a Niles baby.
It's a Niles head and face.
Yes, and then obviously Elizabeth looks much different than Bernadette. Mm-hmm. Davy looks different than even Joseph.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they all look a little different. It's just so funny how you can have a cookie cutter baby,
and then they take much different paths from there. Yeah. One thing that I also have always been just so like, you just stand in awe of, only God could make a baby look like both like mom and dad. What an amazing, it's like, oh, he looks like me, but he also looks like you. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a wonder of his creation that, Lady Pamela and I, we don't look the same. And somehow these kids, they look like both of us.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, dude. I'm super excited. Do you have a baptism day yet scheduled?
It is scheduled. Yeah, it's coming up in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Pamela's brother, Uncle Father Sean, he'll be in town, and
get that.
It'll be great.
Get him just entered into the kingdom of God,
into the church. Well, then he'll be baptized as a king.
Right. It'll be super awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Have you figured out godparents yet?
My sister and brother-in-law, Sarah and Drew.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Yep.
That's one thing that we the other day I was like, hey Haley, because Mary was born and we baptized her like seconds after she was born, mm-hmm. right? And so we didn't have the ceremonial aspect of baptism mm-hmm. at that time. And the other day I was like, hey, do we have godparents for Mary?
Dude, I have wondered about this many times. Can you like nominate godparents after the fact?
After the fact, like post-ceremonial or not ceremonial, but post sacramental godparents?
Yeah, and like, do you need to like have another like ceremony where, because the godparents and the parents, they take make the profession of faith mm-hmm. on behalf of the child. Mm-hmm. And so do you need to do that, with a priest?
I know there's priests that listen to our show. So if you listen to our show, let us know, because that would be nice to know.
Yeah. Because Mary is not the only child out there in this situation who's baptized in a rush.
Right. Yeah. So that's awesome, dude. Congratulations. Number 7. We are way behind on our baby bottles.
Yeah, I know. It's like, hey, Juan, you need to get on this, because we need to do for Louis Ambrose, and then we need to do it for Mary Colette, and then we need to do it for Joshua Benedict.
So those who are listening for maybe the first time or something, like, tell them what we mean by baby bottle.
Okay, so we started this tradition a long time ago. It's awesome. You should totally do this with your own friends. Every time one of us has a baby, we get together, we buy a special, more expensive bottle of whiskey. We
pool our money together.
Yeah, pool money together, and get together just in honor of that child. And it's just the men, and it's just a great tradition. It's a way of bonding families together. Right? That, mm-hmm. Here we have this close-knit group of friends, and it sort of blends friends into family, in a just very, very natural and awesome way.
And typically we sign the bottle with the name of the baby So that way we remember which baby it was with which bottle.
Yeah.
Which you think at the beginning, you're like, oh, I don't need it. Like, we'll remember this. But when you have 7 kids, I have 6 kids. Yeah. Juan has 6 kids.
6, yeah. And it's like, what bottle was that for which kid?
Right.
Like, I don't know, dude, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. So, that's a good tradition, I think, that's fun.
Yeah. So in honor of that, we're talking about gratitude tonight.
Yes.
Just because I've been having a very grateful week. You know, every time a new baby comes into the family, it's just, you're just looking at this little tiny person.
Right.
And they're just utter helplessness, knowing that the Lord has entrusted, what an unworthy gift for his creation to be entrusted to you, a sinner, and someone who's just not, you're not worthy. You don't deserve. You're not entitled to children.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just it's just one of those moments that always makes me really step back and think about life and how blessed we are. In fact, one of the things I like to say when people ask me hey, how are you? It's good to have, that's just a very like casual small talk. Hey, how's it going? How you doing? Good. I always like to say, when people say, how you doing? I always like to say, oh, better than I deserve, I'm sure. Because it's a different answer. It kind of catches people, puts a smile on people's face. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. And it also hopefully makes them stop to think about, like, I guess I am better than I deserve too.
Right. We have Jim here this evening. We're recording on a different night than we normally do because obviously of Lady Pamela giving birth and
schedules, and
so we're recording. We're having a crazy Friday night.
It's on the solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The bishops of America consecrated the entire country to the Sacred Heart of Jesus today.
I loved it.
Which is awesome.
This is the leadership that we want.
More of that, please.
And we don't deserve, but we want.
Yes. Can we get it? Can we make it an annual thing?
That would be awesome. But Jim, it's great to have you here. And I'm excited to hear about the Yummy Scale tonight because we are drinking an Irish whiskey, one that we've had on the show a while back, but it's always good to revisit a good Irish whiskey.
Indeed.
This is Glendalough. It's a pot still Irish whiskey. We actually went to Glendalough on our pilgrimage a few years back, the Catholic Man Show pilgrimage, which was a lot of fun. Glendalough is known for for a saint, Saint Kevin, and the bottle of the Irish whiskey actually depicts Saint Kevin standing before us in cruciform position with a bird on his in one of his hands,
and then the nest of the bird in the other hand. There's a pious
lore,
a legend, I would say, about Saint Kevin. Saint Kevin is a real saint. He started a monastery there in Glendalough, but he had this little tiny hut. He used to, it's so funny that these saints who live in this monastery, which is like full of quietness, but you hear them talk about often just about, oh gosh, the monastery is so loud, and they want to get away from the noise of the monastery. It's like, all right, and so he had this little tiny hut he had built out in the woods. He used to go to for, a month at a time to make little retreats. And he had the habit of praying in the cruciform position, right? His hands out. And as the legend goes, he would go into this moments of ecstasy, and he'd just be praying like this for a long time. And when he kind of came to, a bird had built a nest in one of his hands. And so he stayed like that for like 27 days or something until the eggs hatched and the birds flew away, or, is that true? Who knows? It's a great story. But it just kind of, it goes to show the kind of saint he was and the kind of man he was. He was known for his love of animals and his
love of creation.
Yes, that's right. Just the way he revered all of God's creatures, right?
Mm-hmm. And so if you are a fan of whiskey and you haven't really dove into the Irish whiskey, it's always going to be very smooth. It's triple distilled, so it's going to be an extremely smooth whiskey. It's not going to be harsh.
By law, it's triple distilled.
Yeah, and it's going to be super easy to drink, and it's not going to be harsh. It's not going to be that burn feeling whenever you're drinking it. It's going to give you a warm feeling like as it goes down, but not the burn feeling.
Yeah, Irish whiskey, all of it is very approachable.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're new to whiskey, that's a great place to start. Another great benefit is that it's, for some reason, really cheap.
It's a lot cheaper, yeah.
So that's also cool.
We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. So Jim, now I know that the Emmy scale is typically for bourbon, but we're on Irish whiskeys this evening, so I don't know.
There's 2 scales.
2 scales. Well, there's 3 scales because there's Scotch as well.
Scotch.
Okay. It's a 3.96 out of we don't know.
Yeah.
So, just take that for what it is. It's an odd...
He says, don't pin me down.
It's an oddly specific number in an oddly unspecific scale.
Yes.
Which is why we love it, honestly. Yeah. So anyway, to you, Jim.
Yes.
To your health, my friend.
So we're talking about gratitude tonight, and when you told me that we were talking about it, it reminded me of there's this clip on social media of this comedian who's a kind of a redneck type of comedian, and he was in Portland, doing stand up.
Does this guy have long hair?
No.
Okay.
So he's in Portland, and he says, "I don't do liberal jokes. Y'all are safe." And so everybody's, kind of on edge a little bit, like what he's going to say next.
Because it feels like a liberal joke is coming.
Yeah. And he says, "Because y'all are not fun." And he said, "And some of y'all are offended that I just told y'all are not fun."
Uh-huh.
He said, I was talking to my liberal friend the other day, and I asked him if he wanted to come out with me. He goes, "Oh, man, with just everything that's going on in this world, I just don't think I can do it, brother." He goes, "But your dad pays your rent." He goes, "You're sleeping on a Tempur-Pedic mattress, brother." Like, he said, "Yeah, $9,000 mattress. Maybe that's the issue." And then he says, "You know who's the opposite? Rednecks."
Uh-huh.
And he said, he's like, "I was in my hometown the other day in Alabama, and I saw a friend I hadn't seen in a while. And I asked her how her day was. She goes, "Oh, I was up on my trailer the other night, getting my Christmas lights down. I slip, I fall, I break my neck. I go into the hospital. They find out I got cancer, gonna have chemo the next day. While I'm in the hospital, my father or my husband is having an affair with Brenda up at the bank, and my daughter, Abigail, she got a divorce, right? And DHS comes in, picks up her kids, backs out of the driveway, runs over the dog, kills the dog." "But I am blessed, man. I am blessed. The Lord has given me another day." And he said, "Maybe the Lord doesn't like you that much." But it just reminded me of that little skit. Is like just the idea of gratitude is all in perspective, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of gratitude comes into the idea of like how you perceive the world itself and what's happening in your life. I find that many of times when I feel that things are not going my way, or that it's just like, man, I'm taking one hit after another hit after another hit, that it's like, man, what is going on? And it's easy to fall into a woe is me mentality, or like I can't believe this is happening to me, and I find when I get into those mental states, one of the best ways that I can get out of that funk is to think about what is going well in my life, and then also like, how do I brighten somebody else's day? Like, how do I bring somebody else and share something
Yeah,
good
totally.
with how do I find connection or common ground with somebody else that is good? And when I do that, it does brighten it does move me out of the rut, or if the wagon wheel is stuck in this rut and it's just continually going down. It's like, how do I get that wheel out of that rut and bump it out of that rut? A lot of times I find that the catalyst is really just sharing something good with another.
Yeah, it's so much of it is perspective. So it goes kind of both ways. Having the right perspective gives you gratitude. It helps encourage the virtue of gratitude in your soul. But also, the more you cultivate that virtue of gratitude, the more you just constantly have the right perspective on things, right? Because here's a great biblical example is the book of Job. I mean, just go pick any page of the book of Job, just anywhere, in the middle, at the beginning, at the end. And here's a dude who is just gratitude to his core. Mm-hmm. The Lord has given and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Right. And that is, it's so easy for us to get wrapped up. We get hyper focused on just one issue in our life that we think this is everything at that moment. Right. And that's just not true. And that's not the right perspective to have. So we have to have these things. The virtue of gratitude, which it is a virtue, it's a habit that we need to cultivate and build, so that we're habitually disposed to be grateful, is a sub-virtue of justice. So because gratitude is the one way by which we render to another what is their due. Primarily, we should have gratitude towards God, who has given us our life, who has given us everything that we possess. Even if you have a life like Job, who's riddled with struggles and trials, you have the opportunity to weather those trials by God's grace, and you have life in Him. Disney has been going through this phase of remaking their classic movies, because movies these days, nobody will make a new movie. No. It's
There's
just
no new story.
How much money can we make off of people liking old stuff from the 80s? Okay,
let's just squeeze every dollar out of this.
But one of the first ones they did was Cinderella. They did a live action version of Cinderella, and it's a wonderful movie. They did such a good job. All of the other ones after that, they just some of them are just worthless. But the Cinderella one, I recommend people to watch. There's a scene in there when Cinderella, her father has
just... the animation one?
No, the live action.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's from 10 years ago or something.
Okay.
Her father has just remarried, and the evil stepmother with the sisters, and he goes on a business trip. He's a merchant, and Cinderella says, he's like, what do you guys want for me to bring back from my business trip? And she asks for the first branch that brushes his shoulder on the way. Just
dumb. Don't do that.
Well, it's a very loving thing to do. Anyway, so he gets sick and dies on this trip. And the man he's with, who's his just traveling business partner, brings her this branch, and he says, he takes his hat off. He's emotional. He's saying, I'm so sorry, but your father died. He got sick and died on this trip. And here's Cinderella just realizing she's now all alone with people she doesn't like, who hate her. And this man is bringing her this news, and she's just trying to keep it together. But the thing that she says is, that must have been very difficult for you to bring me this. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And it's such, it's...
what that reminds me of? So
it's a powerful moment.
That is a powerful moment. So I was a part of a conversation years back with in a company, and we were having to let somebody go. And letting somebody go from their job is always difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because
totally.
it's a person with a family, and
right.
you have to let them go. And if you're a business owner, the key to letting somebody go is make it short and sweet.
Yeah.
Like you don't drag it on. You don't give a lot of context or anything like that at that point. Like the decision has been made. You just, I'm really sorry. This isn't working out.
We're moving forward.
We're moving forward. Yeah. We're letting go. And the guy said, the first thing he said in this, which is like, I have been on the receiving end of being let go. So like, I know the emotions and how hard that is. Right. And he said, I appreciate you letting me know. I know this has to be hard for you to tell me this. And I was like, bro, I wasn't the one relaying the information. I wasn't the one, like, I was just part of the conversation. Like, I was just kind of like sitting there in the cheap seats, listening, being a part of this. And he goes, I know this has to be really hard for you. So, I'm really sorry. And I was like, wow.
Also, brilliant move on his part, because if things turn around at the company, who's going to be the one person that you remember?
Right.
You know,
I mean, that was like,
who, like, you think
that made a huge impact on me.
Like, this person was exceptional. They responded to a tough situation in an exceptional way, and gratitude will make you do that, right? St. Thomas, of course, anytime we're talking about a virtue, St. Thomas really is, he's the Summa is the go-to for what is the virtue. Like, let's get a good outline of it. He says that there are 3 degrees of gratitude. That there's the recognition, which is just where you acknowledge the gift and the giver. That you just say, like, you can't move on. You have to first recognize that a gift has been given, okay? And then there's the expression where you verbally give thanks to the person who is giving. And then there's the repayment. So recognition, expression, and repayment. Repayment is just the willingness to repay the favor according to your means to do so, right? And so that seems simple, but you have to keep these things in mind when we're putting a virtue or a habit into practice, And I think the weak spot for most people is the first one, is just having the habit of recognizing the gifts we have, because it's easy to take things for granted. I mean, that's a habit that I think everybody has, is just taking things for granted, right? That you're going to wake up in the morning, that things are going to, still be good for you. And we should be thankful for all of those things all the time. Mm-hmm. And if we don't do that, then we can never move to the third, where we try to seek a way of repaying either the Lord or the people in our lives for the gifts that we've received. It's not like, oh, you gave me $100, I have to do something, I have to give you back $100. It's just, what can I do to show my thanks, right? And he says that the most important part is the internal act of the will.
Protect, provide, establish, and give thanks. What a great way to be a Eucharistic man. And of course, you can find out more on that conversation or ones like it at Podcast Central. Go to the Catholic Man Show at EWTN.com/podcast, or subscribe wherever you like to stream so you can play catch up. I am Ace McKay. When Catholics Coast to Coast returns, the Catholic Gentleman is helping us to understand that we don't have to say it out loud, but we hand our identity to the things that we own. Whew, that was an ouch and amen moment. Underneath a lot of fear is also a fear of losing what we have and the fear of what we may be without. So let's check in with the Catholic Gentleman as we sit down to talk about money and the truth that we work hard to dodge, which is that none of it belongs to us. So we'll get into that next on Catholics Coast to Coast.
Another great podcast on EWTN Podcast Central is the Dr. Ray Podcast. Dr. Ray Guarendi talks about parenting issues, from diaper dilemmas to teenage traumas to college crises. He tackles family, personal, and professional life issues in a straightforward and often humorous way. You can hear this and other faith-filled podcasts at EWTN Podcast Central. Visit EWTN.com/radio and click on Podcast Central today.
Welcome to another episode here at The Catholic Gentleman. We are grateful for the time that you are giving us. We're going to be talking today about how do we rightly use our talents and our money, right? We don't actually know what right looks like these days. I know I didn't. Was that a good use or the right amount of these things or not? And honestly, I would say that most men couldn't say with confidence what stewardship actually means, what our moral obligation of our faith actually is, and how to live that out. That's where we're headed. I like to say, is your net worth tied to your self-worth? We are your host. I'm John Heinen, and we've got my close friend, Devin Shad. Devin, who just welcomed another grandchild into this world, actually the very day of this recording.
Just hours before.
Yeah, praise be to God, Devin. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my oldest daughter's fifth child, Damien Marcel. So
amazing.
Yeah, so it was fast and furious. Yeah.
Yes.
My wife, she said that as she was giving birth, she was kind of sideways and she put her hand down. She's like, I can feel his head. It was a home birth.
Yeah.
Because I can feel his head. I can feel his head. And so, man, women are amazing. I mean, if you think about it.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
Today, my daughter has offered the world hope, life, and a future. And only women with God can do that.
Amen. There's the episode. Praise be to God. Congratulations, Devin. It brought joy to my heart. I shared it with my whole family. We offered up a prayer. Brought joy to my heart. So congratulations to you and your wonderful wife, Kim, and your daughter and their whole family.
Thank you, brother.
Such a blessing. So I mentioned this isn't about money because Scripture ties stewardship or just the use of our talents to our eternal souls. That's what's at stake. What's at stake is not just, am I helping my neighbor in this instance? Those are indeed important things, but what's at stake is our eternal soul. And so to dive right in, I found this perfect story that really fits what we're going to be talking about today. And so Devin doesn't know the story I'm about to bring up. He might actually already know the story. I didn't, and it was in show prep here. So do you know the story of Conrad Hilton?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. So I'm going to tell the story of Conrad Hilton here, and it's a really great one. And I know that even our listeners, most of you are thinking, wait, Hilton, like Hilton Hotel. And I'm sure, like me, you probably immediately thought of like Paris Hilton and stuff like that. And and so it's going to be this jarring to think about when we think of Hilton today versus actually Conrad Hilton, the man who founded the hotel chain. And so Conrad Hilton was a Texan. Woo. and Conrad Hilton was building hotels in the 1920s, and he was building hotels here in the state of Texas in the 1920s. And in 1930, when he opened up the El Paso Hilton Hotel, 19 days later, the stock market crashed. And it was obviously a tough time for everybody. And he was starting to lose everything. And he was losing his hotels. There was a time there that he was almost lost everything. He was $500,000 in debt. He has sold his cars. He had sold suits and stuff like that just to keep the hotels going. He ended up selling hotels. He sold his house and moved his family into a hotel to just try and keep it going. Wow. He was doing all of these different things. He comments in one of his reflections on a bellhop at one of his hotels. A young boy came up with his life savings of $300 and gave it to him and said, I believe in you and I want to help. And so this struck him so much that he says that the only thing that kept him through this all was his Catholic faith. And this is so cool that Conrad Hilton was a devout Catholic. And he said that when the Depression hit, his mom told him one thing that stuck with him. She said, some men jump out windows, some quit, some go to church. Pray, Connie, it'll be the best investment you'll ever make. Mm-hmm. And this is him recounting his mom telling him that. And that's what he did. He prayed through it all. And later in the 50s, he said a story that he goes, when everything material failed, faith remained the only gilt-edged security that I had. And real quick, gilt-edged securities was something that the British government came out with, where you would buy a bond and that bond would actually be backed by gold. And actually the security that they gave you was gilt-edged. They would literally gild it in gold so that you could show how strong. It was a bulletproof investment. And so that's what he was saying. His faith was the only bulletproof investment that remained when the material world fell. And so it kept on going. It got to the point where Hilton regained the fortune and regained all these stuff. And there's a editorial comment in one of the Life magazines, because he would buy out advertising space in the Life magazines, and they laughed every time because the ad that he would send them was a prayer. And so they would run these prayers in Life magazines in the 50s. In 1952, he wrote a prayer called America on Its Knees, and it was in every single hotel room in all of his hotels that he did. And then really the beautiful thing, he's not a perfect man. There was definitely a lot of struggles and relationships and things like that. He's definitely not a perfect man. But in 1979, when he died, in his will, he said that I'm not going to leave my wealth to all of my family because I believe it will corrupt them. And so he gave something like 97% of his wealth was put into the Conrad Hilton Foundation to help Catholic nuns, hospitals, in the poor. And then the 3% was like distributed to two of his brothers and then to his children and nieces and nephews. And it was just like, I think it was like $10,000 each. They each got like $10,000 or something like that. And what's fascinating is that Baron Hilton, his son, who took over, fought in court for years and years and years to get back the money and get back all of these things. And Barron ended up winning 30% of Hilton's stocks or shares were given to him, and only 22.5% or 25% or something like that was given to the Hilton Foundation. So he ended up actually being able to change Conrad's will. But fast forward to his will, and he saw what his grandchildren, Paris and these other celebtantes, were doing with the money. He did the exact same thing his dad did. He stayed a devout Catholic. He did the exact same thing his dad did. He gave 97% or more was put all into these foundations. And so it's beautiful. So there we go. You've never heard that story, Devin. What does that make you think?
Yeah, it's great. What was it his mom said again? Connie, prayer will be the best investment you'll ever make.
You'll ever make. That's exactly right.
I think that's the truth. Man, do it God's way. And open yourself up to the power of God. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that really is. And I think really at the heart of it is talking about Conrad didn't sacrifice excellence in his pursuit of excellence because making money would all of a sudden make him go to hell. Right. There wasn't it was how it was framed and how it was used and how he lived his life, because his talent was obviously to run business and to do so well. And the business that was entrusted to him, we'll say that, was the hotel chain, the hotel industry. And I think I do think of Catherine of Siena in her dialogues. Christ mentioned that to her. He said, I made some wealthy, I gave some intellect, and I gave some strength. He said, so that everybody can depend on each other, right? So that everybody has to work together and be in dependency with each other. And so I think that at the heart of stewardship, or at the heart of what it means to be a good steward, we've got to understand some of these principles rightly.
Yeah, excellent. So where do we begin?
Yeah, so I think where I'd like to begin is actually what the USCCB came out with in 1992 of stewardship. And there's a 4-point and stewardship is everything from your talents and your treasures and your money and your time and how we are giving them. And it's not necessarily how we're using them. There it is. How we're using them. It's not actually giving them to the church per se. That is a part of it. But it's to the poor. It's to our neighbors. It's talents to be a phenomenal designer and incredible content writer like yourself, Devin. Like these are talents that God has given you. Me and my tenacity to do a ton of stuff constantly and remember things. Like these were gifts that God gave me, and we have to use them for the kingdom. And so what the church came out with was just kind of 4 points when we're talking about like a framework of understanding this. And the first one is that every single thing we own, have, or receive is God's. That's the first point. And we'll come back to these. The second one is that we are required, morally required, to cultivate that treasure and that talent that he has given us. The third thing is that we have to share it back in justice to our neighbors, to the poor, to the vulnerable, to those in need. And then the final point is that we have to return it to God in increase. And so those are the 4 points. Everything we have, everything we received from God. Everything that we've been given, we are required to cultivate it. And then we share it back to our neighbors and to the relationships that are in our lives and to the poor and the vulnerable in justice. Retribution is actually what the Council of Trent talked about. And then we have to return it to God in increase. And there's the framework for the show. So Devin, what do you think men miss when they hear these things?
Well, I don't know exactly what they miss, but it reminds me of David Abel. He's the founder of Stewardship and Mission of Faith. And he says that stewardship is an understanding of the heart.
Yes.
So it's not just of the mind, it gets to the heart. It's an understanding of the heart, the soul, at a soul level. Like you said, and the Catechism says, and the USCCB says that everything we have is a gift from God. But then, just like the USCCB and the Catechism, David says that we are to use to help others. So stewardship is an understanding of the heart that everything that we have is a gift from God that we have to use to help others. And I like that. It just sums it up right there. The last bullet point that you shared is like the return to God and increase. That to me seems like that's something a little bit out of our control. You know, like I wouldn't know how to compute that or measure that or analyze that. And I think that we could get caught up in that. I think the focus would be to focus on those first 3, which is really in David's statement there, to cultivate our gifts. Well, first of all, it's God's, then to cultivate what God has given us, that is to grow it, to invest it, and then to share it, you know, and then God will make it grow. I think that's scriptural, you know, is that Paul says, St. Paul says this. He says that Apollos planted the seed, Paul watered it, but God makes it grow. God grants the increase.
Yeah, he does. And I think I love that you said that, because really at the heart of it is our faith and our relationship. And what we always go back to is our growth in holiness, right? We are called to be perfect like our Heavenly Father is perfect. We are called to grow in holiness and to be whole. And that can only happen through grace. That can only happen through the faith of our relationship. And I would argue that if you are cultivating these treasures and these gifts and you are returning it to neighbors, then you are giving it back to God in increase, like that act. Now, we are not in control of that. I agree with you completely that it's going to be God who uses it. But I think that like at the heart of it is that question that we have to be asking ourselves is maybe twofold question is that we have is what am I doing with these gifts and these talents, and am I free? And actually, let's just go there, because I think that this idea of is our net worth tied to our self-worth is something that here in America, at least I grew up with this and still struggle with this. I see that Powerball at 457 million and I immediately start thinking of what I can do with that, right? Like, it's like that would just solve everything, right?
Yeah, right.
You don't think about the nightmare in the fact that over 90% of individuals lose all their money that receive lotteries, lose it within the first 2 years. The point that I'm getting at though is that we tie our self-worth, and by self-worth, I mean not selfish, but our identity and who we are as men in our status and in our profit, like we like to say, our prominence and I'd love to go right there, Devin. Like, where are you seeing men tie their financial worth to who they are? I mean, it goes back to that quote that Conrad's mother told him is, some men jump out windows, some men quit, others go to church. Pray, Connie. And so I'd love your thoughts on that.
I don't know. I think the problem is that wealth appears to give us happiness, and every man is seeking happiness in his heart, because so St. Thomas Aquinas talks about how there's kind of like 3 levels of this. God is essence, esse, so he's existence itself. So therefore, or being. So therefore, if a man is, he has being. Well, that being, the only reason he can exist is because of esse, because God's already in him and allowing him to exist. Therefore, at the deepest level of human being, at his being, God is being. Okay, so what that means is that only that the deepest level, God is the one who's going to bring him happiness. That's the internal wellspring. The external kind of goods of this earth, we tend to look outward rather than interiorly to essay or to God. And so wealth, this is the problem. We think that wealth is going to bring us happiness, and therefore that happiness is equated with our self-identity. So how much of that I have means I'm going to be the level of happiness. Therefore, that's going to kind of determine who I am as a person. So I don't know how many men are, I think between all the 6 Ps, but wealth, Thomas Aquinas in his section in the Summa on happiness, he begins with what brings us happiness. And he argues first, is it wealth? That's the first one, because that's the one that everyone goes to. He starts from the broad range, and then he gets down to finally to our own soul. But and basically it really reflects the 6 Ps very well. I had no idea. But wealth is the external kind of gold standard, you know, for happiness, you know.
For our listeners who haven't heard the 6 Ps, why don't you
well, I say they're prestige, prominence, power, profit, possessions, and pleasure. Now, because of Aquinas in my reading on him recently, I would like to lump together profit and possessions, even though I like how they're segmented, and then put in their physical survival or physical betterment, because I think that there's a lot of people who think they will be happy if they have bodily health and physical stature, and they can run the marathons and they can get the great physique. And granted, we should take care of our temple, but that's not going to bring you happiness. And the reason why none of these things can bring you happiness is because ultimately all of them, it's like Thomas Aquinas uses this great analogy. I hope I remember this rightly, but he says it's a difference between, let's say you have a boat and you work on that boat. You fix the boat, you're repairing the boat, you're cleaning the boat, but the boat never sails to the destination. That's like all of these things: prestige, power, profit, possessions, and pleasure. They're working on the boat. The boat is us. We're always working on the boat, but the boat can't bring us happiness because we're the boat. Mm-hmm. But the boat has to go to the destination, which can bring us happiness. So all those things of prestige, power, profit, possessions, pleasure, physical survival, all that is at the service of getting our boat sailing toward the ultimate goal, which is happiness, which is the summum bonum, the ultimate good, which is God alone. And if we don't have that in our sights, if that's not where we're sailing to, we're just tinkering on the boat, and we're going to, we're like the old guy who's always working on his cars because that somehow makes him happy, and yet he's miserable because he doesn't have a life.
Yes. And I think that what we're getting at is having our end in mind, right? First, our identity, who we are as sons of the loving Father, or our divine filiation, right? Sons and daughters of the loving Father. But also our end goal in mind, right? When it comes to our talents and treasures is what we're kind of focusing on right now. When it comes to those things, why did we read in the gospel this morning to store up treasures in heaven, right? Not treasures on earth. Because if we're just called to live here and just called to experience the ways of the world, these 6 Ps, then why wouldn't we just empty ourselves into those? Why wouldn't we just give ourselves over to those?
People do it all the time, and that's the problem. That's why if you look at America, I mean, get this. So Zoomers, all this research and stuff, but the Zoomers' life goal, 80% of them is to be wealthy. And then 50% of them is to be famous, so prestige, or prominence, I'm sorry. So, and Zoomers have a 42% depression suicidality rate. It's way above twice the American average. So that tells you, do those things answer the problem of happiness? No way. No way. And the problem is because they're created, they're things. Only the Creator can fulfill us. These things are ways that the Creator communicates. The giver gives us gifts to say, see, I love you, and I'm trustworthy. I care for you. I protect for you. I provide for you, and I offer you pleasure. I'm your Father. And then what we do is we say, oh, Daddy, just give me more. Yeah, I don't really need you, the giver. I just want the gifts. But if we're walking with God, it's kind of like this. There's this kind of bell curve. I don't know, for those of you who can't see it, just imagine a bell curve. Yeah. And so you start out on the lower left-hand side with nothing. And then as you're proceeding upward, God gives you something. He gives you the gift that's intended to go full scale up the mountain to lead you to the giver. But what happens is we say, oh, I love this something, this gift, and we just say, but not the giver. And then what happens is it's a bell curve. Instead of, we do get more, but we go back to nothing spiritually. And so we have to understand that God is luring us, the giver is luring us with the gifts to say, look, you can trust me, but what you really want is me.
That's right. It's like Christ is saying, I love you. Now let's go do something awesome. Let's go build something awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go do this together.
Right.
Versus us saying, I love myself, or I'm trying to love myself, and so I need all these things to make myself feel happier. And Christ is a footnote, right?
Well, and I would argue you don't love yourself if you're self-idolatrous, or if you're living for the six-piece world. You're actually hating yourself, because it's a dead end. It's a black hole. It's just implosive. Whereas if you really love yourself, you will love God above yourself, because God alone can love you more than you can. And therefore, if you love the one who loves you more than you can, you will end up loving yourself more than you can.
Yeah,
it's a Bilbo Baggins riddle, you know. I mean, it's like something like that.
So there's a tension, though, that I find that a lot of men, and myself for a while, experienced, was this idea of balancing a family, a work life, a pursuit of something excellent, tithing to the church, giving to the poor, and like they seem almost as if they're in opposition. And maybe even it's that word balance that I just used, like somehow doing your work and raising an amazing family and giving to the church and helping the poor are somehow in opposition or conflict with each other. So Devin, I'd love for you to talk about that tension that I myself have wrestled with.
Okay, so this is really at the heart of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the crux of everything, is that so God gives us wealth or money or mammon in order to serve our vocation. So our occupation, all that we gain from it, is meant to be a blessing to our vocation, and then beyond, subsequent vocations such as helping the poor, helping those who are in need, or the ignorant, or whoever. So the tension is really, as I'm gaining income, how much do I keep for myself and how much do I give back, right? Because if I give too much back, then I'm being a poor steward for my family. If I give too little, then I'm being a poor steward to God. Is that the tension?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I would even say also within pursuing of excellence, right? I think there's this sense of, if I do become wealthy, or if, and there's a tension in pursuing wealth, right? But if I do my job really well, and that comes with some sort of monetary, compensation that makes me wealthy, I'm somehow not following God's will.
No.
And then, yes, what am I doing with that money? So I guess there's really two tensions here that we're talking about, because I was thinking about what you were saying, but I'm also thinking about this other one that somehow in conflict is this idea of cultivating with excellence, of doing your job very well. Like, we brought this up with St. Joseph as well. It's where my mind goes. St. Joseph wasn't an okay carpenter. St. Joseph was an excellent carpenter. And yes.
Well, and even if he was okay by the world standards, St. Joseph was striving, we know this, to be excellent by his own standards and God's standards. And that's really what we need to focus on, is that you and I, all of us, were called to be excellent at what we do, whatever it is. I mean, it sounds stupid and effeminate, but if you're setting the table, do it with excellence, okay? And if you're changing a tire, do it with excellence. And if you're giving a talk and a presentation, do it with excellence. But this is the caveat. Do not be attached to your own excellence or your own desire for excellence. That's hard. That's the tension. But I think we should try to get back to the tension of, okay, how much wealth and how, what am I responsible for? Because I think that for me, the big fear is what if I don't have enough for my family.
Our bodies, our homes, every part of our lives, all on a loan. And a great reminder this week from the Catholic Gentleman. You want more on this conversation? Easy to find. Go to EWTN.com/podcast or subscribe wherever you like to stream. I'm Ace McKay, bugging out. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and stay cool this summer as we, of course, remember to let God define who we are. And I'll see you again with Catholics Coast to Coast.